On this episode of Bootleg Zones, we're returning to Turly Gang. At least kinda sorta, as well, it seems I found out what they did with their original Primus and Secundus heads after they got redesigned. The Tortoise Warriors are a very interesting spin-off, so to speak, of the Turly Gang. So you remember how some dummy in their Turly Gang video said there's no documentation of Europlay getting in trouble for their Turly Gang figures looking too much like TMNT? Well, that was wrong. There are actually records that in 1992, Bandai, who are the ones who put out the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles figures in Europe, did take Europlay to court in the Netherlands. While the court didn't seem to think that the Turly Gang figures were a direct ripoff of TMNT, they did think that the Primus and Secundus figures were definitely inspired by them. And because of this, both Primus and Secundus got their iguana-inspired makeover. So since Secundus and Primus now looked like this, it left either Europlay or Sungold with a bunch of useless TMNT-looking heads. They didn't have to change anything about their bodies, so the new heads just had to be slapped on to the old bodies. So either Sungold or Europlay decide to sell off all their remaining version 1 Secundus and Primus heads to make new Ninja Turtle knockoffs. Or there's the possibility this was Sungold or Europlay taking the heads and slapping them on new body molds they had and then releasing them anonymously. We got no company name on these ones because, well, that makes it harder for them to take you to court. And if you peek under their feet, you can find out that these were made in China. They were really trying to hide that non-surprise with these ones, apparently. Though kind of interestingly, these were distributed by BC out of Los Angeles. But even though these were distributed by a company out of LA, I don't know for sure if they were actually released there. The Tortoise Warriors I got here came from Greece, and so far that's the only country I've seen these coming from. And if the Tortoise Warriors weren't actually secretly released by Sungold, they certainly copied their little bullet points about the features of the figures for the card. And since Tortoise Warriors didn't have such a direct link back to who actually made them, they were much more blatant with how they copied the Ninja Turtles packaging, with the bricks in the background and the logo. Though there are fireworks in behind the figures, which I assume is a celebration of the fact they found a way to still sell these heads after getting taken to court for them. Then, kind of randomly, there's a Chinese dragon and a symbol above it, both of which I don't know if really have anything to do with these figures. Oh, and here's the back of the card, just in case you guys were wondering. Yeah, it's super impressive. So here's our new style Secundus and Primus figures unleashed. They both came with a baggie containing an assortment of weapons for them, Primus coming with the green ones and Secundus coming with the pink ones. And even though these two came with some very similar looking weapons, they aren't actually the same ones, just cast in different colored plastic. They are different. Secundus came with a much curvier longsword than the one Primus did, and it doesn't really fit in his hand as nicely as Primus's. And with the two daggers it came with, Secundus's is serrated on the back end where Primus's isn't. Even the nunchucks they came with are both slightly different, as Primus's has a ring pattern going along almost the entire thing, where it's only on a few spots with Secundus's. Primus also came with 2 extra weapons compared to what they packaged Secundus with. So he also came with a sickle scythe weapon, which was very Galaxy/Turly of them. And he also comes with another knife, which kind of looks like it should be a switchblade, but of course there's no actual action to it. A little interesting to note is some of the weapons that these Tortoise Warriors came with look a bit like the ones that the Proto-Turly Gang figures were pictured with on the back of their card. Particularly those stringed nunchucks that Draginius was pictured with look almost exactly the same as the ones that Secundus came with here. The Tortoise Warriors stand much taller than their original Turly Gang counterparts, mostly due to the fact they don't have bent knees like them. But if these guys were made by a different company, they certainly had the Turly Gang figures to look off of, because the color scheme for these guys is almost exactly the same. So the trunks are still yellowy, and accessories like the boots are still the same color. These new body molds the heads have been slapped on don't have gauntlets like the Turly Gang figures, but their gloves have the same color as them. And even these harness shells are black like the original Turly Gang accessories. And yeah, that's all they did to make this what was likely another He-Man mold ripoff into a more tortoisey thing. They just made them shell accessories to slap on. The shells do easily come off, and then all you're left with is He-Man-y looking turtles. So Tortoise Warriors is kind of like the evolution in between Turly Gang and New Style Ninja Tortoise. And here's their backs and butts de-shelled because these guys are coming out of their shells. Oh no, not again! I guess they weren't exactly sure of the fit for these shell accessories when they made them, so they've got 2 notches on the side. Now, there wasn't much change for how these 2 Turly Gang heads were painted to be Tortoise Warriors, but there is, of course, a noticeable thing. That, of course, being that they've made both their eyes completely white, which makes them look that little bit more like the actual TMNT figures that were out at the time. Kinda makes you wonder that if these were made by Sungold or Europlay, if they're kind of spiteful with it by saying like, oh yeah, you want to say that these are a blatant ripoff? Well, we'll show you! We'll slap these heads on new figures and make them even more blatant. Take that! You know, before I started the show, I never would have figured that there were so many Ninja Turtle knockoffs that also had a connection to He-Man knockoffs. And the Tortoise Warriors just go to show you that you don't even need to have the Galaxy body mold to be a part of the Galaxy whole. These new bodies the Turly Gang heads have found themselves on are pretty much as sturdy as their originals. They feel really solidly made, and the legs and arms are slightly rubbery but don't really have that much flexibility to them. But those Turly Gang heads sure still do! The arms are on a regular peg joint, but the legs are on a ball joint instead of the elastic banded legs from the regular Turly Gang. It's clear these molds were used for another line beforehand, as the shells are just backpacks. The weapons they come with are okay, they're nothing special, but they're also clearly repurposed as they don't really fit the grip very well a lot of the time. 9. As these are probably the heads from the original Turly Gang that they were just kind of left with after having to redesign them to be slightly less TMNT-like, this was a pretty creative way to get rid of them without just junking them. Just slap those heads you can't use anymore in the Turly Gang on a new body, and you've got a whole new TMNT knockoff. And no one is really going to be able to figure out what involvement either company from the Turly Gang figures had to do with them. Because, well, we still don't really know. Hell, we don't even know the relationship between the 2 companies that are associated with Turly Gang. 10. There even being different body mold figures with Turly Gang heads is quite odd. Especially as Turly Gang is kinda rare in itself, so that it has an off-branch like this is quite bizarre. And their appearance is again that of a Masters of the Universe knockoff used with a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles knockoff. And you can never get enough of that. I'm also quite surprised that these frog characters fit so well as Tortoise Warriors. 10. It's that classic TMNT knockoff card look with a bit of Galaxy Warrior flair, so if you love classic knockoff lines, Tortoise Warriors is where it's at. Except on the back. 6. These Turly Tortoises stand much taller than the original TMNT figures and the Turly Gang, especially due to their straight knees compared to the bent Galaxy ones. Still, overall, they're solid figures that could fit in with a lot of things. 5. And the Bootleg Zones overall is 9! Another interesting turn in the Galaxy hole to bring in another TMNT line. And it's kinda hilarious that this more blatant TMNT knockoff was probably made because of the slightly more subtle one getting in trouble.
Wow, dude, it sure feels great not to be copyright infringing anymore, right, Primus?
Well, I don't know about that, Secundus. I think we're even more blatant now.
No, we're tortoises now instead of frogs. That's less like a turtle. These guys are blatant ripoffs of us, Primus. Let's kill them!
Yeah, it was bad enough we already had those iguana versions of ourselves. Now we have to put up with tortoise ones, too?
Oh, look, Turly dudes, I think we know something that can resolve this entire situation.
Oh, really? Let's hear them out. We're taller, so we win.
Oh, I never really thought of it that way, dudes. Well, in that case, let's kill them!
What the hell is this? Are these supposed to be us?
Donnie, don't you mean what the shell?
Well, only 2 of them actually have shells, Raph, and they're only accessories.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hey, how come Raph and I weren't included in this rip-off party?
Well, never expected them to actually show up. This just got kind of awkward, didn't it?
Raph, we totally got ripped off on being ripped off.
Let go of my arm, Leo. Dudes, I've had enough of these Turly imposters and rip-offs of Turly imposters. Let's kill them! Hey, he stole my line.
Are we actually allowed to get upset about that, though, considering what we all are?
No!
Why are you so aggressive about this anyway, Michelangelo? You're supposed to be all laid back.
It's based on that deleted scene in the movie where I destroyed the barn, dude.
Oh, wow. That's obscure.
Right, dude. And dealing with the lie that took the heads from the Turly Gang when the courts decided they were too blatant of ripoffs and then they made an even more blatant ripoff out of them isn't.
Yeah, okay.
Tortoise!